Welcome to the No Grow Go podcast. I'm Matt Jordan. I'm senior pastor here at First Methodist Church Enterprise. And as you all know, we have a very important ministry in the life of our church that we've talked about a couple of episodes ago about how you can support it. But our first responder rest stop is something that our church is so proud of, and the ministry that our church provides to first responders. But it's always a comfort to know that you're not alone in that effort. You know, we shared at the beginning that things like a rest stop, like what we have, are rare, where we don't know of any outside of our area besides the Pacific Northwest. I've been contacted by a couple of folks that are interested in starting something like this in their area. But the other day, I was just scrolling through Facebook, as I normally do, and had seen a donation of a goodie basket of sorts made to Troy PD from this group called Respond and Bond. And I reached out to them to see if we could coordinate and connect, and led me to meet Miss Shayne Wells here, who is the founder and the heart behind the Respond and Bond. I don't know of another word to call it, ministry, but that's in the church world, that's what it is. But Shayne is here with us. She's a freshman at Troy University, and I'm going to let her introduce herself, and then we're going to talk about Respond and Bond and what it means to be able to connect with our first responders and show them support. So, Shayne, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, as he said, my name is Shayne Wells, and I am a student at Troy University, but I come from Eufaula, so I do enjoy helping out the different counties in the surrounding area. I started Respond and Bond when I was a senior in high school as a nonprofit organization, and now that I'm out of Eufaula and hitting more counties, I'd really like to spread it out further.
That's great. That's great. And so when we think about Respond and Bond, you know, I love that title. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came about, how you got that vision for Respond and Bond?
So I knew I wanted it to be kind of a pun or a play on words. I wanted it to be catchy so that people could look it up easily and find out what it was about. And I knew I wanted the title to explain what the project was. So with Respond and Bond, you obviously have your first responders, so that's where Respond came from. But the goal behind it is to actually bond with them so that you can create a relationship with the people who are out there sacrificing their lives for you every single day. So that's where Respond and Bond came from.
That's awesome. Yeah, in my experience, many of our listeners know I'm a chaplain with the sheriff's office, and there's been a couple of times I've ended up doing our podcast in my chaplain uniform, and always get some funny comments like that. I actually got certified to carry a firearm, and I'm from Alabama, born and raised, and most chaplains don't. But I volunteered to go pick up ballots at the last presidential election. And the day before, they called me and said, "Matt, you can't go pick up ballots." And I said, "Well, why not? I mean, I'm on the insurance. I drive the patrol cars, the whole 9 yards." And they said, "Well, you're not certified with a firearm, and you got to be certified with a firearm to pick up ballots."
Really?
And I said, "Well, put me on the schedule. Tell me I can't do something." And so a lot of our members always like to make a joke. Matter of fact, one actually brought me water pistols after church one day and said, "Pastor Matt protects the flock with the Glock." And so they always enjoy some of that. But one of the things that I love, I think we put first responders on a pedestal, and rightly so. Yeah. But we do that at times and distance them so much from the common humanity.
Yes.
And in a sense, the sacrifice that they give so willingly and so quickly definitely puts them in that position. But they're humans. They're men and women. They're sons and daughters. They're dads and mamas. They're just like us. And I think the more that people can connect and bond with them, they can see that.
Yeah.
We actually had we do our security at the church. We for Wednesday night dinner and Bible study and Sunday morning worship, we utilize the sheriff's office, and we had a gentleman. He works for Op PD now, but Keith Wise, and Keith's still a friend of mine and someone I always love to connect with. But when he worked security, I always loved it because we had a wonderful Wednesday program at the time where we pick them up after school and do Bible study and activities with them. and Keith would be out there all in his full gear and everything, playing kickball and softball with the kids, and in there playing basketball, and it just made that connection so so beautiful and so important. So for you, when you think about putting together Respond and Bond, what was that inspiration for you?
Yeah, so the inspiration behind it was my grandfather was a lieutenant in Eufaula. He was in the military. He was a police officer for over 36 years, and I saw the sacrifices that he made daily, and I did not know him as not a police officer. That was his life. That was his goal in life, was to make sure that everybody else felt comforted and safe. And so he also had to bring it home. So when he would come to the house, he was still almost, looking out and on guard. And I saw he can't even come to his own house and be just fully, completely relaxed. And I knew then that I needed to make sure that they knew they were appreciated, that they knew that there were people out there looking for them, and just making sure that they felt appreciated and safe in their job.
That's awesome. And this began your senior year in high school as you were getting ready for a pageant, right?
Yes. So I actually had the opportunity to start a platform, a community service initiative, to be a prelim for the National Peanut Festival. And so I was Miss Barber County 2025, and they said, all right, we need you to do something for your community service. And that is when it struck instantly. I was like, perfect, because Barber County is very rural.
Yeah.
So you have your Barber County Sheriff's Office, and then the Eufaula Police Department, and the Eufaula Fire Department. The rest is basically all volunteer work. And so if you go out anywhere in rural Barber County, it's normally an old shed that has a couple of guys that live around the area who volunteer their time if something out in the county happens. And so I knew when they asked me to start a community initiative, I knew that I could make a difference in Eufaula, because it's so rural. It's on your own time, on your own money. We have the Barber County Sheriff's Office, their SRO team has to provide funds out of pocket. And I knew that that's difficult to, number one, put your life on the line. Number two, have to pay for it yourself. You're not even getting anything for it. So I knew that I could make a difference in that and just start in my community. And now it's spread over to Troy, and I'm looking to expand it a little bit further.
That's great. So tell us some of the things that you've done with Respond and Bond, like some of the actual projects that you all have been able to do.
Yeah, so we've interviewed police, and so that really just made sure that people knew that they were human. I did simple questions. What's your favorite snack? What's your favorite activity when you're not on the clock? And they had answers just like anybody else. I mean, some of them liked Gatorade, some of them like to go fishing, some of them like movies. It's normal answers that anybody else would have. But I liked posting that because that's easy for the community to engage with.
Yeah.
Oh, they like movies like I do. I wonder what their favorite movie is, because they are human, like you said earlier. I've also done mini donation boxes. We did a stuffed animal drive to keep, because most of the time when a first responder gets called out to a case that has a child, they're seen as a bad guy. That automatically puts a stereotype on them, that they're A, having to go with them when they don't want to, B, a domestic dispute was going on and the child is scared, or just many reasons that automatically puts the cop as the bad guy. And so I did a stuffed animal drive so that the first responders could keep them in their cars and their vehicles. So when a police does go out to it, they can give the stuffed animal to the child, and it just creates a sense of security for the child. I remember I was 4, and I was playing ball, and I busted my head open. I still have the scar. It actually broke part of the skull.
Oh, my word.
Yeah, so in Eufaula, you're very local. Everybody knows everybody. And so the 2 EMTs that came to get me, we knew.
Yeah.
And so I was terrified. They put me in the back of the ambulance. There was stuff everywhere. I knew my head hurt and I was bleeding, and I was just terrified. And I remember Mr. Marty Roney gave me a stuffed rabbit, and I clung to that thing, and it just gave a sense of security. So I knew that that could make a difference. So we've done stuffed animal drives. We've dropped off several goodie baskets to different areas. Like you said, I just did one in Troy, just to show a little bit of appreciation.
Yeah, yeah, and that appreciation goes so far. That's one of the things that I've learned with the rest stop. Even before we got it off the ground, and we were talking to different police departments and the sheriff's office and firefighter and everybody, when they would come and look at the space as we were kind of putting it together, they were so excited. And there's always, at least in our area, on First Responder Week or Dispatch Week and those sorts of things, there's always somebody that drops something off by the office or whatever it may be. But the consistency of that throughout the year is something that means the world to them.
Makes a huge difference.
It does, and being able to show some of that support is something that I think is so unique because in other parts of the world, or other parts of the United States at least, there's such a disconnect between the community and law enforcement specifically, to where the past few years you've had slogans like defund the police, and you have people that have tried to give a poor perception of law enforcement and things, and we don't have as much of that here, really not a lot at all, and it's a huge blessing. But still, to be able to show that support just goes miles and miles with them.
It does,
and I love the way you did the interviews of the law enforcement officers and first responders, because I think that shows that picture. When you can get them talking about something that's not a case or not a legal matter or not something like that. Our sheriff's office does a Christmas party every year, and I'll never forget this moment. I helped wrap deer. We had these like jalapeno poppers, I guess, and we took a little deer meat and bacon and wrapped it around there, and they threw it on the grill, and we were wrapping it up, and one of the guys was talking about how we didn't have enough deer meat to do as many as we really thought we needed. And so then they were trying to sway the sheriff to say, so during deer season, how much time on the clock can we go for the Christmas party and try and kill a deer? And I think that people miss that humor. They don't get to see that a lot. And I've done a couple of ride-alongs, and it's always when you read about it and hear about what they go through, it's totally different than when you're in the car with them, because you get a call out, and we got a call to go to somebody's house or something going on, and I was like, the conversation they had with me was like, "No, man, I just got to know before you get out of the car, like, if something goes down, are you gonna like help me?" And I was like, "What do you mean, like pray for you? Whatever." He's like, "No, I mean like help me." You know? And maybe a few minutes for another officer arrives, and I was like, "I mean, look, I'll do what I can," And I was real nervous. Nothing happened. It was just a common conversation. But to have that in the forefront of your mind every time you pull somebody over, every time you go to a call, every time you arrive at something, no matter how simple it may be over the radio, there's always that hesitation of what am I walking into that I don't know, and that's always. So I'm a part of this organization called Leaps Peer Support. And that's and it's for law enforcement specifically. And one of the jokes that they made the first time, and I didn't really get it because I don't live in that life, on a day-to-day basis. And they said law enforcement truly are the first responders. Firefighters and EMTs are the only people that get to sleep in a bed while they're on call and wait for something to happen. We're actively pulling people over. We're actively going to places before they get there, and it puts a whole new framework on what that is. And I think when people can empathize with that, they can see the personality that it takes to be someone as a first responder, whether it be fire or EMT or whatever it may be. So tell us a little bit about what your future goals are for Respond and Bond. You said you've done the interviews and the goodie bags, and have expanded out to Pike County and Troy. What are your goals? What would you like to see happen with Respond and Bond?
First and foremost, this is a big one. I want to make it nationwide.
Okay.
I know that is a very far stretch from where I'm at right now, but I started it when I was 18. I think maybe by the time I'm 40 something, I can have a little experience under me. But no, I would really like to raise funds for a lot more communities, because I've seen how my county has had to pull out of pocket. And I just know that that's not something you want to do when you're already in a high stress situation. You don't want to not have the gear that you need because you can't pay for it.
Yeah, and already underpaid as a responder.
Yes. So I would definitely love to start more funding like that. And I'm actually going through the process to get more serious within the state and just make sure I'm doing everything right. And so that'll be a big help with that. I would love to have more community involvement. Right now, starting out, it's a few donation boxes here and there. I just started one for y'all.
Yeah.
And that does get a little bit of the community involved, but it's also not really showing the behind the scenes. It's asking somebody, hey, will you go buy this and donate it to someone that you don't see? So I would like to involve the community and just make sure that they're really engaged as much as they can to show that they are humans and that this job takes such a huge mental toll on them.
Yeah.
That they do go out to save you and they don't know you. So they're going out to a call where they don't know the face, they don't know the name, they don't know anything about who you are, but their goal is to protect you. And that's a big job. I think the least that we can do is help them show that they're appreciated or help them with a few snacks or energy drinks here and there. I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome. And the other thing that I think is awesome is you're 19, right? Started this when you're 18, and when you think about young people in the world today, and as a pastor, I deal with multiple generations, right? We've got a few who that served in the Korean War and were on that tail end of World War II era. A lot that served in Vietnam and that generation, and we've got a lot that are, I turned 32 this week, but that are in my generation and a little bit before me, and when you look at those multiple generations, I think they've probably said it in every one of those, but it's always putting down on the young people, you know, of well, they're just on their phones, or no one wants to work anymore, no one wants to do these things, and we've got some folks in our congregation. One of those is Ella Catherine Gamble. She's a pageant person as well, and
I went to Peanut with her.
Okay, yeah, and she's got an organization called Fostering Friendships, and one of the things that she helped us do. We sponsor 2 schools in Honduras. We actually got a team that's, by the time this episode goes live, have already gone and been, but they're going to see our schools we sponsor. And they needed kitchens. And so our church was fundraising to provide kitchens at those 2 schools. And she said, hey, Matt, I would love if Fostering Friendships could help take this up as well. And so through her organization in the church, we were able to provide those kitchens, and which is huge, right?
Yeah.
And what makes it even greater is that young people like yourself and Ella Catherine and others are really engaging in that.
Yeah.
And we met the other day with your mom, and she said she's 19. A lot of people don't take her serious, but in that mind, as a 40-year-old playing with her cats, and
I have to agree. I'm an old soul.
Yeah.
I will say that. I'm the youngest of my family. I have 5 older siblings. They were all born and raised in the 90s. My youngest brother was born in 2000, so I definitely grew up more on that side of the age spectrum than my side.
Yeah, and I, I've always been an old soul myself. I in high school and growing up and those things, I always loved the classic rock music, and always was working, trying to do things with my hands and things like that. But when you think about from a spiritual side of doing these things, you shared with me one of your favorite verses is Mark 10:45.
It's on my shirt.
It is. So share with us a little bit about how that verse has. Share us what the verse is, and then share with us about how that's impacted Respond and Bond and your goals and those things of starting this, and just how that's informed your life.
Yeah, so Mark 10:45 is, for even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. And I think that speaks for itself when it comes to first responders. They are giving their life to serve you. And I think that's great to embody Jesus. And so the way that this verse got incorporated into all my stuff was in pageant season. You had to have a commercial for the prelim, which was Barber County, and for Peanut. And Peanut is held in Dothan every year. And so I knew that would reach a lot of people. And so while I want to make a difference in first responders, I was like, why not share Jesus? That would be super easy to reach a bunch of people while doing 2 things at one time.
Yeah.
And so I made sure to incorporate this verse in everything that I said. If I was on stage, I said Mark 10:45. It's in my bio on my social media pages, I want to incorporate this verse everywhere, and I want to be seen as a Mark 10:45, because serving other people is so easy. It does not take a thing from you. You don't always have to buy something. You don't always have to donate something. showing appreciation.
Yeah.
Go to the police department, say thank you, meet with them. That was one thing about the interviews that I love so much, is that I got to talk to them one-on-one as a person, not, oh, you pulled 3 people over this week, tell me about that. No, I asked them about their favorite snacks, the funniest memories. One that will always stick out to me is I was talking to, he was a very nice police officer. He was the fun police officer.
Sure.
And so he was telling me during our interview, I was like, what's your favorite memory in your career? Like something happy that may have happened between coworkers or something. He said, well, I'll tell you, I pulled somebody over. And he said, now, this was a long time ago when you got to put them in the cop car with you in the front seat and not worry about it. And I said, okay. He said, I had just left McDonald's and I had gotten me an ice cream sundae. He said, I had it in my seat. So when that guy went and sat in my seat, he sat on my ice cream sundae. And me and him laughed about that for probably 10 minutes. He just kept adding on and making it more and more funny. Apparently, the guy didn't know he sat on the ice cream cone. He said that he just felt cold. He didn't know what it was. I'm talking, we laughed for 10 minutes. We could not control ourselves. The chief walked in. He was like, what are y'all doing in here? I was like, we are interviewing. Hold on, sir.
Yeah.
But it was so fun. It's just nice to see them in that kind of stand. And see, that's serving somebody. That's bringing joy and happiness to people. And it's so easy. It took 10 minutes. Didn't take any money. It made both of us happy. I mean, I still think about that story probably once a week.
Yeah.
And it's just an easy way to share joy. And with this Bible verse, it shows how to serve. I mean, this verse tells you all that you need to know. That is, you go out and you serve.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's something that's so significant in the Christian faith as well. The avenue of service is crucial. And the other side of that is, that's not just something that Christ gives us as a command, but he demonstrates in his ministry. Yeah. We're spending a couple of weeks in First Peter, and in First Peter chapter 2, 19 through 25, Peter gives an instruction to the early church to be willing to endure when they suffer for doing good. Mm-hmm. And they said, if you suffer for sin, that's one thing, but it's gracious in the sight of God.
Yeah.
In the way that you suffer for doing good. And then he transitions out of that moment to say that we are to imitate Christ in the way that he was perfect in every way and still died upon the tree.
Yeah.
And we're to imitate him in that capacity, to embrace that suffering and to embrace that avenue of service. And Christ even tells us in Luke 17:10, when you've done what you've been asked, you should consider yourself an unworthy servant. Mm-hmm. And so that servant mentality is at the heart of Christianity.
Yes.
In the way we live from that position of humility. So when we think about service, mm-hmm. I think a lot of people attach that to giving up something at specific seasons and times, right?
Yeah.
We do Love Your City, where we give out things for the homeless, and that's an avenue of service. That the city has the Oscar Club Day of Service. We always participate, and everybody in the community goes out to serve. Mm-hmm. But being a servant is really a characteristic of your soul, not just one event, right? It's through things like Respond and Bond, or things that are in your local church. How do you mm-hmm. serve regularly, and seeing people out in the community, and just an older lady that's eating at a restaurant, and you realize like she got here with her rollator and carried her plate to her table. Maybe you can take it and throw it away for her.
Yeah.
That's an avenue of service in the way we do that doesn't cost us anything. And I think that is something that it's definitely something at the heart of our church. We do a lot of local ministry and love to serve in those ways, but even greater than those specific one-on events of service, I think it's something that should permeate the life of the Christian. In that capacity of service. So
I agree.
Well, Respond and Bond, you've told us about what it is and the goals for it and those things. Where can people find Respond
mm-hmm.
and Bond? How can they follow your journey and your organization in this?
Yeah, so I have an Instagram and a Facebook, and they're both under Respond and Bond. And I also have a Gmail listed as a link in the bio so that anybody can reach out. You can message me on Messenger, on the Gmail, anywhere that you can contact me, you can reach out, and I'd love to partner with anybody.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. So what is the biggest need that you have with Respond and Bond that those that are listening and those that may follow along that see this, what's the biggest need that folks listen and say, oh, man, I would love to help support that young woman and help support the Respond and Bond organization? What are ways people can support you?
To support, I would say anytime I do a donation drive, that would be super helpful, of course. I do try to stay away from just asking for money. I'm not going to put my Venmo in the bio. Of course, I would use it straight to whatever I am asking it for, but I don't want people to just donate. Again, that is you giving something to a stranger and not making a bond. I would like for people to be involved in my page and following it and maybe reaching out to a police officer. Take a police officer a goodie basket or take them a note. Send the police department a note. Send the fire department a note. Anything like that, basically, where I want people to feel comfortable with their first responders in their community.
Yeah.
I don't want the first time you meet a paramedic to be because you fell down and you're upset and you're crying and this scary guy with all this medical stuff. I want you to know who is taking care of you and who has given their life for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. In 2012, maybe somewhere in there, I went to Passion conferences and with Louis Giglio and them in Atlanta. I'm going to date myself a little bit. I went one of the last years they had it in the Georgia Dome. But when I was there, they were really pushing hard for the End It movement, and which is a really kind of a communication effort, awareness type of thing, to raise awareness for human trafficking, and they always found ways to connect it to, hey, our goal is to help fundraise and support the people that are doing the work. Right, this is just about awareness. And I think some of the ways they do that, they always try to push stories and information out where people can find resources and those sorts of things. And I see that in Respond and Bond in the way that it's not just specifically what Respond and Bond does, but what Respond and Bond is, right? Of a kind of a network of ways to bond and connect with first responders, in those ways, and I think that's just so awesome.
And that's another goal is I was shy when I was in high school. I did not speak, I did not talk. I sat in the back, did my work, and left when I could. And so if I can go up to a sheriff's department and the police department and just walk right in and talk to them, anybody can. I'm not shy anymore if y'all can't tell, but but that's the face of Respond and Bond. The general idea is you can talk to them. I mean, they're not somebody who is constantly getting you in trouble. They're here to protect you. That's their job. The same way nurses save people every day, police officers save people. You just don't realize it because sometimes you're the one that could have caused something. And so I think that that's important. You don't have to meet them in a scary situation. You can go up to them at any time, anywhere. You can don't go to their houses, of course, but you can meet them as a person instead of as someone that you need to call on, that you need to protect you or something like that. So I think that's the face of it, is that I want y'all to be able to meet them as a person. That's
great. And that's, I think there is a bit of a intimidation factor of walking up to them. And I tell you, a couple of years ago, the district attorney, James Tarbox, he's one of our members and a friend of mine. And he had reached out and said, man, I'd love to do an appreciation dinner. And I wanted the church may want to help partner and host and those things. I said, we'd love to, right? We this is before we even opened the rest stop, and I had gotten call after call because folks were like, Matt, you've got like 50 cop cars out here, and I was like, it's actually a lot more than that. And he said, EMS is out here. There's fire trucks on the street. I said, we got an appreciation dinner, and they're like, oh my gosh, I thought something was wrong. And I was like, no, we're hosting people, and we had a retirement party for a member of Aaliyah, the state trooper's office, a few months ago, and same thing. They were like, man, is everything okay at the church? And It's like, yeah, why? And they're like, there's like 40 state trooper cars out here, and it's intimidating for folks to see that. And
it is.
Even when we did our rest stop opening, all the departments came, and there were 100 plus people that were present at the ribbon cutting, and some of our staff were like, I've never seen so many law enforcement officers in one space, and it can be intimidating, right? To walk up to somebody with a gun and a badge who steps into an area in a position of cautiousness.
Yeah,
it can be kind, it can be gracious, but until they know the scene is safe, there's a high level of caution that comes into that. So being able to break that intimidation of I'm just walking up to a man or a woman and having that conversation is something that I think takes some practice for some people.
Yes, it does.
But it's not as hard as they think it is, right? To just come up and talk to them.
And I'll out myself here. I've been pulled over 3 times by 3 different people in 3 different areas of my county. And now, was I happy? No, but I was polite. We talked it out. And so far, knock on wood, I haven't gotten a ticket.
There you go. There you go. I cannot say the same. I have had my fair share of tickets, and I've run out of excuses to get out of them. But it's something that I think that's so neat about your platform of I don't know of another way to say it, instead of trying to help resolve that stigma.
Yeah.
Of
they have a horrible stereotype on them.
They do. They really do. And when you think about a first responder, and it's generally in one of 2 ways, right? Protection, arrest, or some type of tragedy, right? Someone's hurt, there's a fire, something's going on that's not good. And so meeting someone in that scenario, even if you're on the benefactor side, right, of the one being protected or the one that's being taken care of, is still something that is a high stress moment. So
it is.
Being able to bond with those responders in those low stress environments, I think, is so crucial.
Yeah, and that's another thing. If you have to call, if someone's breaking into your house and you have to call somebody, it makes me feel more secure if I can be like, okay, I'm going to call 911 and they're going to send out somebody I know.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather know the person and know, okay, I know his heart behind this job. My grandfather, he passed away a few years ago, and I had somebody come up to us at the funeral and go, hey, your grandfather arrested me, but he was a really nice guy and he changed my life.
Yeah.
He's not bad. He saved somebody that day. I don't know what happened. I don't know why he got arrested, but he said he changed his life. He saved him from something else. And you never know. That comes back to God's plan, is you never know why you're being stopped for that second. Like, why God's closing that door, because he has something better for you. And so I always try to think of that is, maybe if you get pulled over, that could have saved you from a wreck happening in a few minutes later. That's why you got stopped, paused just for a second. But, I mean, they don't always have to have a negative connotation on them. I think it's very helpful to know who you're asking for help. If there's a fire at your house and you know the person, the firefighter coming to your house, they can know how to respond to you better. They can know, hey, this lady might have a cat inside. Like, I don't know. It's just the smallest things that if you create a personal relationship with them, then it helps everybody in the long run. It's less awkward. It's less formal in certain events. And it's just more comfortable for the whole process. Yeah,
and there's been a couple of moments in my life where that's happened. One, not directed to me, but a buddy of mine. So we're coming up on the 15th anniversary of the 2011 tornadoes that came through Tuscaloosa and all of that. And in my hometown, one of those on April 27th had gone through and had actually killed a friend of mine's family. And some months had gone by maybe, and he got pulled over up the road from my house, and I remember what he got pulled over for, but he was just an emotional wreck, and was an emotional wreck before he got pulled over, and everything was just tears and weeping and everything. And he told me that the police officer didn't give him a ticket or nothing, but actually shared scripture with him, shared the story of Job and things like that, and just the knowledge from the police officer to be able to look at this situation and see this is a lot more than somebody that's speeding through a stop sign.
Yeah.
And to be able to interact with them on that level is so powerful. On a lighter side, I was running late to work one morning at the public library, and I was squealing down Highway 69 down the back of the mountain in Gunnersville. And the speed limit shifts when it rains because there's a lot of wrecks and things like that. Well, I was running late, and I've learned since then that if you get pulled over, you're more late. So, but I don't remember how fast I was going, but it was not good. And the state trooper pulled me over. I saw him. He looped around and got me. And he came up to the car and said, "Do you know how fast you're going?" I was like, "Yes, sir." I was running late for work, And he said, "Well, running late's better than being dead." And I was like, "Well, I appreciate that." Yeah. And he came back to the car with my ID, and he said, "Is your uncle Danny Jordan?" I said, "Yes," or David Jordan. I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Is your grandmother Kathy Jordan?" I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Are you Kelly Springfield?" And he said, "Yes, sir, I am." And he said, "You giving a warning today?" And I said, "Well, are you going to tell my dad?" Because he and my dad played high school football together in Boaz. And he said, "Nope, but you are." And I said, "Well, thank you, Mr. Kelly. I appreciate that." And I think it was about 2 years went by when I told my dad at a Christmas party. And he said, "Boy, I should have took your truck away." And I said, "Well, that's why I didn't tell you." But when you have that knowledge of who people are in the community, it's always a comforting moment to know a familiar face. When they walk in. I'm still waiting for the day. I've got some buddies of mine that when I travel back home, one of them works for Atala PD, another one works for Marshall County Sheriff's Office. I'm waiting for the day that I get pulled over by one of them, but see how that goes. But I think it helps to have that connection, and I've even seen that when my oldest son was just a few months old. We had a really big health scare with RSV that ended up getting him sent to Birmingham. But when we were at the local hospital here, in my ministry, we go to the hospitals all the time. So having some doctors that knew me and hospital staff that came and checked on us, and the paramedics that were there, I knew a lot of them through some different things, and they were all there checking and working just like they would for anybody to make sure they got the result they wanted and we wanted, and it was just so comforting to be able to go up and call them by name, to be like, "Hey, Arnold, what's the hang up? What's going on here?" And be like, "Matt, let me just tell you, this is all that we've got right here that we're trying to resolve." And it brings you comfort in those moments to know those people. Yeah. So, well, Shayne, is there any last thought you want to leave with us about Respond and Bond and your outreach to first responders?
I don't think so. I think follow the social media, follow Respond and Bond on Facebook and Instagram, and I think that is all I have. Okay, well, great. Well, friends, thank you for joining us for the Know, Grow, and Go podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, let us know, and make sure to share, right? And make sure to follow Respond and Bond on Instagram and Facebook, see Shayne's progress in her outreach, and to just give praise to another young person in our area in the state of Alabama that is doing great work, even at such a young age, for people other than themselves. And thanks again for following. We hope to see you soon. Have a great week.